طيب، بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, if I can just get confirmation that you can hear my sound all okay, please. Okay, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Okay, so brothers and sisters, jazakumullah khairan for joining us again for part 3 of our weekly webinar series. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put barakah in this gathering, to make it a source of khair and to accept it from everyone that is involved. Ameen. For those that are new, a very brief introduction to this webinar series so you know what it is all about. So the reason why we, the Islamic Council of Europe, have set up this weekly webinar is that we are all currently in a new situation where we are all spending all of our time together with our families, be it under the same roof or in the same room. And purely because of this, the chances of any friction, any dispute, any discord are higher purely for this reason. And we want brothers and sisters to be well equipped to handle situations so that with Ramadan just 10 days away, and may Allah give us life to reach Ramadan. I mean, with Ramadan just 10 days away, the last thing that we want is to enter Ramadan with issues in our families, with problems in our families. So this is one of the main reasons as to why we have set up this course, so that we can go into Ramadan in the best way possible, so that we can focus on our ibadah, to focus on our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And today is week 3, and so far in the last 2 weeks, in week 1 we've covered conflict management with Shaykh Shaqur Rehman, who will also be delivering today's session inshallah ta'ala. And week 2 was just last week, was delivered by Shaykh Ali Hamouda, who delivered a webinar on how we can work together as a couple, particularly on how spouses can work together on building their iman together. And today's topic is going to be on the notion of ignoring, forgiving, and forgetting. And today's session will be, and those that have not been able to attend previously, do not worry. All previous webinars have been recorded and they are currently available on our YouTube channel. If you'd like to catch up, please go ahead and catch up. They will be there on our YouTube channel. Now, today's session will be delivered by Shaykh Shaqur Rehman, who is a senior advisor at the Islamic Council of Europe. The Shaykh is also a senior instructor for the Sabil Development Program, and also the Shaykh is a senior researcher for the Muslim Research and Development Foundation, who are a UK registered charity who focus on building leaders and providing guidance, especially to the youth of our ummah, especially in the West. And many of our brothers and sisters that are active in da'wah have received nurturing from this organization. And especially in the current climate that we're in, it's very important that we raise young brothers and sisters as confident Muslims who are proud to be a Muslim, proud of their deen of Islam. And MRDF sole focus is this, to ensure that families and individuals are confident Muslims, especially in the West. They are currently fundraising for urgent funds that they need in order to continue their important work. So please, if you're able to support them, please visit supportmrdf.com. That's supportmrdf.com. We'll paste the link in the chat box very shortly as well, inshallah ta'ala. For those that are not familiar with the Islamic Council of Europe, We are essentially an advisory-based council who provide solutions and guidance for Muslims, particularly in the West, on various matters. And these can range from marriage issues to business disputes and so on and so on. Most of the work that we deal with is in relation to marriage, be it marital discord, marriage counseling, and even cases of talaq where husband and wife have an incident of talaq and they're not sure if it counts or not. So they need to see a qualified sheikh who can give them a verdict if it counts or not. We don't just deal with marriage, we also deal with cases of business and finance. So if anyone wants to start a business in a halal way, they can come and see us and get advice, or if there's a dispute between business partners or even family members over an asset or over an amount of money, then we can provide a neutral setting and they can get a verdict from a qualified judge, inshallah. For those that have attended previously, you know that we like to do things a bit differently here at the Islamic Council of Europe. And we like to make things interactive. So we need all of you to get your phones out, please, and go to this website called menti.com. We'll also post a link on the chat box, so you can click the link. You should see the link now, inshallah ta'ala. So please go to menti.com and put the code 840893. That's 840893. We'll give it a few seconds for all of you to log on there, inshallah. Okay, so let's see how many of you are actually logged in, inshallah. So first things first, if we can see how many brothers and sisters are with us today, so you can just kindly answer that question and see how many of us are with us today, inshallah. So mashallah, as usual, we have more sisters and brothers that are taking part in these webinars. Give it a few more minutes, inshallah. Okay, and next question. Where do you live? Where do you live? MashaAllah, we have 2 people from outside of Europe representing, MashaAllah, and we have 13 from the rest of Europe. Next question. What is your current marital status? Next question. How many of you attended last week's webinar? MashaAllah, we have 44 new attendees this week, MashaAllah. And final question is, what is it that you remember from last week's session? For those that attended, what is it that you remember from last week's session? MashaAllah. So many people saying to have a vision as a couple, to build iman together, to pray together, to have a shared project, MashaAllah, work together. Wales, MashaAllah. Good, MashaAllah. People remembering most of the tips that were given last week, MashaAllah. Again, for those that weren't with us last week, you can go to YouTube and listen to the recording, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll end the intro there. We'll now pass it on to our Shaykh Shaqur Rehman. Shaykh, I will just start your video, inshallah. Bismillah, Shaykh, go ahead. We can see and hear you, mashallah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Just before I mic'd up, if you like, I started getting the hiccups, so please excuse me if I hiccup. They don't seem to have gone away. I've got some water here just in case. Okay, what we're going to do today, we're going to be dealing with one particular principle that we
Sheikh, we had lost you for a few seconds. You're back now,
alhamdulillah. Apologies, something. Yeah, I know it just disappeared. Anyway, what we'll do, we'll start immediately. So this is one principle out of the 10 that we normally teach from the course. What we're going to look at today is part of how to work as a couple. Now, the first thing I'm going to allow you to do, and this question is for the sisters only. Brothers, you just have to wait your turn. You'll get a turn in a few moments, so just be patient, inshallah. So the sisters, what I want you to do is now answer the following question using a maximum of 3 words. We know that we live together and everyone gets on everyone else's nerves. This is normal. It's life. When you live with people, there's certain things that they do, certain quirks that they have, certain habits that they have which annoy you. So I want you to use 3 words to describe what's a habit that your husband has that really annoys you. Okay? Off you go. Just take 30 seconds quickly. Some responses. No more than 3 words. So the sisters who are looking at this right now having a good laugh, saying, yeah, see, a lot of people agree with me. Just keep patient and calm. You know, this is all part of marital life. You're learning to see and hear things that you don't want to hear, really. And alhamdulillah, it's all anonymous, so no one's pointing any fingers at anyone. Okay, so here, some of the big words: doesn't listen, lazy, angry, constantly on the phone. Okay, unorganized, late, arrogant, rude, messy. Okay, so those are some of the more, yeah, messy. Also, and a common one that sisters mention is doesn't take care of himself, and you've got yani ignores me, doesn't listen to me, controlling, all of these types of words. Okay, right. So those are some things that annoy our sisters and annoy our wives. Now, brothers, it's your turn. Okay, so just as the brothers do some things that annoy their wives, wives do things that annoy their husbands. So in no more than 3 words, can we have the brothers this time? Can you tell us, what does your wife do that annoys you? In no more than 3 words. Come on, brothers, we need to be quicker. Okay, we've got some of the big words here. Stubborn, nagging. Nagging is always number 1. Recently there was a game show and they had this question up there, and it came up as nagging. Was their top, controlling it as well. A screwed face, looking very unhappy all the time, being rude, silent treatment, arguing. Someone put amazing, or a few people put amazing. Ya akhi, you're not going to win any points at the moment because it's all anonymous. You should say that to your wife directly if you want to get some brownie points. Right, sleeps too much. Okay, this is another one, disrespectful. So you've got all of this, and some put dumb even, shows they're not intelligent. And that comes across in the sisters one as well. They had something like that as well. So all of these traits. Okay, right, if we pause there, let's think about this. Now, there are habits that people have. Okay, there are character traits which annoy you. There are character traits which are displeasing to you. Now, in this regard, first and foremost, that Allah created Adam alayhi salam from a handful of dirt from all of the earth. Okay, so then the Prophet ﷺ says, فَجَاءَ بَنُو آدَمْ عَلَى قَدْرِ الْأَرْضِ. So Bani Adam had traits like the different parts of the earth. So some are red, and some are white, and some are black, and people are between that. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, وَالسَّهْلُ وَالْحَزْنُ وَالْخَبِيثُ وَالطَّيِّبُ. And the people have different characteristics as well. Some are easygoing, some are difficult, some are good, and some are evil. Right, so characteristics have been distributed by Allah. That's one part of it. So the Prophet ﷺ, he actually said, "Inna Allah Ta'ala qassama baynakum akhlaqakum kama qassama baynakum arzaqakum." So Allah has proportioned and distributed amongst you your characteristics, just as He has distributed amongst you your provisions. Okay, so there's a part of our characters which is something innate to us that Allah has given to us. So this is the fitri part. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is a very important hadith that we need to keep in mind in this whole topic. Okay, the Prophet sallallahu says, "Akmalul mu'minina," that the most complete of the believers, ahsanuhum khuluqa, is those who are most complete and the best in their manners. Okay, this is key, right? But there's going to be different levels in these issues, and these go back to akhlaq. That all of these things that we've mentioned, nagging, rude, angry, not so intelligent, even as some of you said, dumb, um, not so bright in certain things, the way you see things is different, even certain simple mannerisms, how they speak, you find it rude, you find it abusive and controlling and everything else, right? So these things will differ, but at the same time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also said, "Ma min mawludin illa yuladu ala al-fitra." So firstly, every single person has innately being able to incline towards the truth and accept it. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ. So then the parents and the environment play a role in now modifying that fitrah and changing the disposition of that person. So they can change even that personality when it comes to inclining towards the truth, let alone the other characteristics that a person has. So this environment has also played a part in defining how that person is going to behave. So their upbringing, their family life, the experience that they went through in life all shape some of those things. So in that regard, also the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَمَن يَسْتَعْفِفْ يُعِفُّهُ اللَّهُ. Whoever seeks to be chaste, then Allah will enable them to be chaste. وَمَن يَسْتَغْنِي يُغْنِهُ اللَّهُ. And whoever seeks to be self-sufficient and not ask the people and work for himself and rely on Allah, then Allah will cause that person to be self-sufficient. And the one yatasabbar, yani he seeks to be patient, he tries to acquire that characteristic, then yusabbiruhu Allah, then Allah will grant him patience. So there is also this other aspect in our Islamic teaching, that when a person strives to acquire a characteristic, he is able to acquire that characteristic to some degree. Okay, so people are going to be different innately, and they are going to be different because of their environment, how they grew up, their experiences, etc. And depending on their striving to achieve certain characteristics and certain behaviors. So that's understood from the Sharia angle. And at the same time, on top of that, your spouse has not grown up in the same family as you. Alhamdulillah. They're foreign to you. Okay, so they are not going to think the same as you. From that angle, they're going to have different experiences, different traditions, different customs, different characteristics. And on top of that, men and women are innately different. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. Allah says, and the man is not like the woman. So here, there's so many differences that we need to understand, and we know that that is how Allah has created us. Right. From this, the next question I want you to look at, after understanding this background to the issue, we've got these issues and these things that annoy us. Our spouse does them, and maybe they've been doing them for a long time. Most of you are married, as the questions prior to this showed. Most of you are married, so you will have seen these things, and they have annoyed you. You've done certain things about them, but they're still there. So the next question is, can we have a spouse without flaws? Okay, can we have a spouse without flaws? Off you go. Simple one. And remember, we're talking about in this world. We're not talking about anything else.
The question is, can we change these habits in them first?
Oh, sorry. Can we change these habits in them? I've got a missing question from my set. Okay. Can we change these habits in them? Yeah. So you guys have seen it. I haven't. Okay, Jazakallah khair, Zubair. Right, these habits. Now, some of you have said yes, some of you have said no. Yeah, there's certain things you can possibly change. Yeah, certain things you can change, and other things you try and you tell them and they work on it, yet they can't change it. That's how they are. For instance, us men, what do we do? Which is so we can't see that which is right in front of our face sometimes. So what do? We shout at the wife, "Where's this?" And she comes along and she picks it up straight away. Okay? Okay, can we change that? Most of the time, no. This is how most men are and most women are. So that's how it works. And you try and try, you can't change it. Other things, right, be on time, and yani the person fixes it to some degree, or may even fix it completely, yeah, by taking certain steps. Certain characteristics, for instance, like managing anger and being better at dealing with conflict situations that breed anger, yeah, yani you can change certain amounts of it. Okay, you can change certain amounts of it, but many times there's certain characteristics which are not going to go away. Okay, they are there. You've done all you can to get rid of them, and the person themselves has done all they can, and they're just not going to go away. That's how the person is. So in this, hopefully I've got the right question now. Zubair, can you bring up the next question? Right, so can we have a spouse without flaws? Right, remember we're talking about in this world. Okay, so clearly the majority of you, 160 of you at this point and more, are saying no, you can't. Right, so here we need to understand that, you know what, in this world, the world is imperfect. Rather, this world is perfect with its imperfection. Okay, this world is perfect with its imperfection. What does that mean? Basically, this world is a place of test and trial. It's not an abode of bliss and reward. So, because of its purpose, it has to be like this. Because with these imperfections, it produces those tests and trials that we're all going to face. As Allah said, وَجَعَلْنَا بَعْضَكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ. We made some of you a test for others. Are you going to have that patience and perseverance? Okay, so a person who has this outlook that, you know what, my spouse has to be perfect and can't have this and that and the other, well, they set themselves up for failure right at the beginning. So that's not the situation you want to be in. Right, so the next question, let's move to the next question. So what do we do with a spouse who has flaws? 2 words, only 2 words. Okay, what do we do with a spouse who has flaws? Off you go. I need a good 150 responses before I start commenting and move forward. So alhamdulillah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, good. Right. Out of 300 and something, come on, let's have a bit more then. Let's have about 250. Yallah. Okay, that's giving me a good indication now. Right, so we've got have patience, accept, ignore, adapt. There's tarbiyah there, communicate, accept them, forgive, work together, support. Okay, very good. So you got compromise in there as well, a big one. Okay, so now if you look, there's a push at the moment, unfortunately, with current trends. You know, we're in this fast food generation, in this era that, you know, out with the old, in with the new. Okay, so then Why should we put in the effort and sacrifice and yani, if I'm not happy, let's throw it all away and start all over again. This is the attitude, unfortunately, that the current modern time has yani, created in the personality or the perception of people. Whereas traditionally, the pressure was on, you know what, life is like this. You get on with it. You accept it, as many of you said. You communicate about these things. You try to fix certain things. And if they can't be fixed, that's how it is. Okay. And then what? That's it. That's how it is. Okay. Is that a solution? When we say that's how the issue is, that's how the person is that a solution? Actually, yes, it is. Okay. Many of you are going to say, no, how's that a solution? Right. So there's certain problems you cannot fix. There are certain issues that cannot be fixed. That's just the way it's going to be. For you to accept that that's how it's going to be, and then manage that, work around it, find other ways to deal with things, knowing that this is always going to be the case, for you, that's dealt with the issue. That's dealt with the problem. You're no longer trying to fix it. Because that can be the solution for many of these types of problems. What do you do there? You move on. Don't bug you anymore. You try to fix it. Let it your mind and your emotions because it's something you realize that you can't fix. Okay. With that, right, we're going to move to another one now. Okay. What should we do? So your spouse messes up. What should we do? How should we behave? So that's the next question. Zubair, can you bring that one up?
Sheikh, your connection dropped for about a minute. Would you mind just repeating what you just said in the last minute or so?
Okay. So what I was talking about just now is that sometimes when you've established that this habit or this mannerism of the person, the way they behave, the way they do certain things, that annoys you, can't be changed. You've tried, you've done different things. Sometimes the only solution for this is to accept it. How is that a solution? It is a solution for you in that now you've accepted it. You're not trying to deal with it anymore. You're not trying to fix it. It's not taking up your emotions and your mind and all your efforts. Rather, you leave it alone and you work around it and you just manage it as best as you can. And you've accepted it. That way, you relieve yourself of the pressure of trying to fix it. Just accepting it is a solution for yourself. So that's what we're talking about here. In now, that's how certain people are. You can't change that. There's a bigger picture to look at. It's a part of a test that you've been placed in, and you just deal with it. You get on with it. And this was a lot of the time, this was the traditional method. You know, it was never about finding the perfect spouse. It was, right, this is what you've got, work with it. Do your best with what you've got. And seek Allah's help, obviously, but carry on. Work around it. Okay? That acceptance makes life easy and actually relieves so much tension and so much pressure that you build up inside your own self. So that's what I was talking about when the connection seemed to go down from what Zubair was saying. Okay, then I moved on to the next question. I said the next question we need to do, right, when our spouse messes up, what should we do? How should we behave? Okay, so maximum 3 words. When they mess up, what should we do? Maximum of 3 words. Okay, there's a nice big word at the moment. We're under 100. I just want to get over 100 before I say anything about it. Right, we've got communicate. Okay, communicate, very important. Brothers don't really like to talk about things like this. Sisters do. How do you get, sisters, how do you get your husband to open up and start talking about things? Because this is not, men, how they operate normally. They don't really sit down and have a nice chat. It doesn't really happen. How do you get them to do that? Well, you need to enter their world and do something that they enjoy. And while they're actually doing that thing, they'll be the most most talkative that they've ever been. That's when men normally open up and start to talk. But if you're trying to engage in a normal conversation, most men are not really interested. Okay, so you need to enter their world if you want that communication. But brothers, at the same time, it is imperative, because you're in a team here. If a team does not communicate, it cannot function at an optimal level. So just like in any project, you have to communicate and you have to let people know what's going on. And when problems happen, you have to work through them. You can't work through them unless you communicate. Very important. Okay, so there's that aspect of it, which the Prophet showed us. Long hadith of Bukhari, where Aisha radiallahu anha is talking about 10 different women and how their husbands were towards them. The Prophet says nothing for so long, and then he adds a single comment, a one-liner at the end. But he was listening. Okay, and brothers, learn the lesson. When your wives say they want to communicate, they want you to listen. Yeah? They don't want to hear you talk anyway, right? And we don't like to talk that much anyway. They want you to listen, okay, and actually listen. Not listen to pick holes, but listen to understand where they're coming from. Okay. On top of that, we had some really other good ones here. Forgive, be patient, ignore. Someone said run. You're not going to run anywhere. If you're running, that's the end of that project. You failed in that project. We don't want the failures in the project. Understand. Some people said ignore, relay. What does Allah say? Okay, our reference point is Allah and His Messenger. So Allah says in Surah Al Imran, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So here Allah is talking about those who spend in good times and bad times, and then He mentions this characteristic, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. Those who manage their anger. They don't just let it out, the frustration, and let it blow up. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Okay, they forgive, they overlook, they pardon. At what point do they pardon? Okay, some of the scholars, like Ibrahim al-Nakhai rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that the scholars of the past and the believers of the past, they never liked to be humiliated or humbled. But what they did was, when they had the power and when they had the authority and they could take revenge, what did they do? وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. At that point, when you have the power and the ability to take revenge and to let it all out, if you hold it, manage it, and then look at the bigger picture and say, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, I want that reward. That will make me from the muhsineen. And you forgive. Like our scholars used to do, like the Muslims of the past used to do, forgive. Because there's bigger things to look at, more important things to look at. Then you have the reward that Allah mentioned here. It's not at any other time. It's when you have the full ability to take revenge, to let it all out. The Prophet ﷺ also, he said that no one, وَمَا زَادَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا بِعَفْوٍ إِلَّا عِزًّا. A person does not forgive in such a circumstance with that full ability to take revenge and to actually fulfill the anger and let it out and actually make the person feel it, except when he forgives at that point, Allah increases them in honor. وَمَا تَوَاضَعَ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ. And a person doesn't humble themselves in that kind of situation except that Allah raises their rank. Now, what typifies this model is what Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala he said. Okay, so someone said that well-being in itself is 10 parts and 9 parts of them are in ignoring. Imam Ahmad turned around and said, no, you know what, well-being is 10 parts and all of it is in ignoring. Now, these are the people who are most closest to you: your husband, your wife, your children, your relatives, your parents, the people who are the closest to you. And they have certain traits which, quite frankly, they're not going to change. That's how they are. Now, if you ignore and you look over these things and look at the bigger picture, you will live a happier life and they will live a happier life. To the point that if you take an example of, this is Ibn al-Athir, one of the historians and scholars of the past, he talks about Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Salahuddin, we know him to be the conqueror. Yeah, he's the one who conquered Al-Quds and gave it back to the Muslimin. May Allah free and liberate Al-Quds once again and return Masjid al-Aqsa to the lands of the believers and in the hands of the believers to control. He, rahimahullah ta'ala, Ibn Athir says about him, may Allah have mercy on him, he was forbearing and of good character, humble and patient with that which he disliked. He would overlook the faults of his companions often. He would hear what he disliked from one of them and he would not make it known, nor change his behavior towards the person. And he's the mighty warrior, the conqueror. And this is how he was with his troops and his friends and his relatives. And this was his character. Okay? Living Islam. Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah ta'ala, he further emphasizes this issue and he says, overlooking the mistakes continues to be the most noble character of the generous. Now I want us to focus on this. Allah said in the verse that's in front of you, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. He started it off with infaq, or spending, being generous for the sake of Allah in all times. And then he added to it this managing of one's anger and forgiving when you are able to vent your anger and take revenge. And Allah coupled all of that together and he said, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. Allah loves those who do good. Ibn al-Jawzi, one of the scholars of the past, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, overlooking the mistakes continues to be the most noble character of the generous. The most generous of people was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was most generous in Ramadan because his increased connection with the Al-Quran. This is a generous person. They manage their anger, they pardon, they overlook, they ignore, they forgive, they forget. This is how they are. Then he goes on, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, people inherently make mistakes and slip. If a person focuses on every slip and misdeed, he will wear himself out and will wear others out too. No one would want to be around this person. It's just doom and gloom and everything's a problem and it's a mess. Then he says, rahimahullah ta'ala, the intelligent and wise person is the one who does not get into every issue and the detail of it with his family, his dear friends, companions, neighbors, and colleagues, such that his gatherings, because he doesn't do that, he lives with people with their mistakes, accepts them for who they are, and gets on with life. His gatherings are enjoyable, and his relationships are happy and free of undue trouble. That's what this behavior brings about. Harmony in one's life, peace in one's heart, an enjoyable life with those around you. No one likes a person who's always picking on their mistakes and trying to fix every single flaw that they have. People like people who accept them and work with them and can get on. That's what happens. Okay, so this understood, this said, this advice taken from the Prophet, from Allah first and foremost, from the Prophet, from his character. And let's take it even a step further. The Prophet, we all know the famous hadith in Bukhari and Muslim where, you know, the Prophet is walking and he has this cloak on and the Bedouin comes and grabs him even. Okay, grabs him, and then the neck makes a mark in the shoulder and the neck of the Prophet ﷺ, leaving a mark there. And the man turns around and the Bedouin man, he says to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Muhammad, he says, O Muhammad, Murli min malillah, give me some of Allah's wealth that He has given you. The Prophet ﷺ, what did he do? He turned to this Bedouin man. He didn't shout, he didn't scream, he laughed. Okay, he smiled at the Bedouin, and then he ordered that money be given to him. Okay, now which one of us would be able to do that? Yeah, none of us. And you've been abused, and the person's demanded something that maybe they have no right to in the first place. Okay, maybe they have no right to it, whatsoever. The Prophet ﷺ smiles. He kills the conflict or the problem. He kills it by smiling, and a true smile, not one of those smiles that yeah, I'll deal with you later. No, no, no. He smiles a smile of love and care and concern, and then he fulfills the need of that person. Okay, it doesn't. I mean, that's it. It doesn't occur to him to deal, yani, to remember this and punish the person. No, no. That's not the way of a leader. That's not the way of someone on higher moral ground. That's not the way of someone who wins the hearts of others and is able to bring people together and able to achieve many things. That's not a way, or the way, yani, this looking for vengeance is not the way of someone who's going to achieve much. Okay, with this said, what stops us from behaving like this when we know this is the desired characteristic from Allah and His Messenger? Okay, that's the next question. What stops us from ignoring, forgiving, and forgetting? One or two words. Off you go. Okay, we've got nearly 100 responses so far. Okay, excellent. We've got that big word in the middle there. It doesn't seem to be going away. It's quite firmly planted right in the middle there. Ego, pride, anger, arrogance, stubbornness. Okay, shaitan is there as well. Okay, hurt, things that have happened in the past that have caused that hurt, repeated behavior, frustration. Our anger is part of frustration. Okay, good. So here, yeah, we've got the ego issue. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us that man tawada'a lillah, whoever humbles themselves for the sake of Allah. When you humble yourself and you ignore, you forgive, you forget, it's not for the person. Make it for Allah. You will never lose. If you make it for Allah, Allah has promised you the reward of raising your rank, honoring you. Don't feel you're belittling yourself. And on top of that, you will find that the other person, yani, will appreciate it. Most people and most times. And even if they don't, you'll never lose, because with Allah, you're the superior person. You have your reward deposited with Allah, never going to go away. We've also got inside there desires which shaitan fuels. Okay, so these desires of pride, vengeance, the stubborn nature that we have, it's all part of these desires, and part of that is what shaitan pushes you to do, is take revenge. Okay, so some of us, we've learnt this behavior of taking revenge. If we're hurt, we need to take revenge, and that in itself, as some of you placed there, is a shallow thinking. Because who is this person? This person is your spouse. This person is perhaps the closest person to you in the world. It may even be your parent. Now, revenge, what does it produce? It produces more hatred. It doesn't produce love. And these relationships are meant to be based upon love and to fuel more love and to develop the pleasure of Allah. So they look at this minor thing or this one small issue and forget the bigger picture, which is the relationship and in itself. There's another thing that yani some of you are alluding to is interference from others. Yani how can you accept that? Are you going to take that? How can you let that go? And some people who start saying these things. We should understand that this type of interference is unwanted and not beneficial. Okay? What we should be looking at is how to make things better and not how to take revenge. And this type of mentality of taking revenge is one of the main causes which fuels the ego. Right, so we've got this, right? So this is what we've understood from it. But what happens when we actually mess up? Because this is what we need to learn as well. Sometimes we mess up. And this is our next question. What should we do when we mess up? We've actually done something wrong. And we've realized we've done something wrong. Okay, so 3 words, maximum. What should we do when we mess up? Okay, we've got some very good answers here. Right, number 1 on the chart there. Apologize. Yeah, express that regret. Say sorry. Okay, right. So that's 1. Another thing we've got accept the responsibility for that. You did it. It's your fault. So accept it and admit it. Okay, these are the same things. Right. Also, you've got there change. You know, offer to make it up, make it right. There's also in that saying sorry. Some of you got reflect, hug, repent, all that. Genuine repentance to express that desire that, you know what, I want to change because you, the person I've wronged, are worth that. I want to keep our relationship and improve it. And the last thing there, asking for forgiveness. Yeah, all of those are there. So basically, we're going to summarize all of that. Like you've got the 5 love languages. There's 5 languages of apology. Yeah. So Zubair, can we have that slide? Jazakallah khair. So 5 languages of apology. We're summarizing this diagram that we've got in front of us with these 5 points. When you do something wrong, okay, when you do something wrong, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. So you got the verse there and the 5 languages of apology. If you just bring up the next bits of it, Jazakallah khair. Right, so here they are. Number 1, first step, expressing regret, saying sorry with no buts. Yeah, it can't be any buts. If you say but, then everything you said before the but doesn't count. So you say, I apologize, I'm sorry for whatever it was that you did that was wrong. You accept the responsibility. You don't try to shift the blame on someone else. You know, it's Adam alayhi salam's fault that I didn't bow down. No, you don't do that. You take it. Offering to make restitution just means make things right, make it up to the person, fix whatever is broken, deal with that. They need to hear and feel that repentance is genuine. And not just for the sake of saying it, but real. And you're going to do something real to make that change. And the last thing, I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. Now, if someone does these 5 things, okay, if they do these 5 things, they're genuine. And then we should take the verse that's at the top of the slide. And remember, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا. And you forgive, forget, turn, yani pardon, excuse. Why? ألا تحبون أن يغفر الله لكم? Don't you want Allah to forgive you? Allah is the one who loves to forgive, and He is the most merciful. And Allah wants us to incorporate these characteristics into our lives. This is what Allah wants. Okay, the last question and the last section that we're going to finish with now, in the next couple of minutes. What are the consequences if we don't apply what we've been talking about today? What are the consequences of not ignoring, forgiving, or forgetting? Okay, that's what I want you to answer next. And a maximum of 3 words. Okay, what are the consequences of not ignoring, forgiving, and forgetting? The biggest word right there, divorce. Okay. Yep. Really, that's it. The end of the relationship. It doesn't have to be the marriage relationship, but that's primarily what we're talking about. So it could be your family relationships, where there's just a cut-off in communications and the ties of kinship, which is just like divorce. You've got resentment, hatred, broken relationships, misery. Yeah, misery for you, as well as misery for them. Okay, and everything around misery. So there's no good in it. There's no good whatsoever. You see, all of those negative feelings, negative emotions is what is the outcome of not applying this principle. So, in conclusion, if you decide that I'm going to pick up on every little mistake and every issue, your life, forget the other person's life, what you've done to yourself is made your life unbearable. You will live in misery. You. Forget them. You will live in misery, and you've done it to yourself. Okay? No one wants to live like that. Okay. People make mistakes, and sometimes they make major mistakes. Be ready for that to happen. When it happens, the maximum that you should want is that they follow those 5 steps. They want forgiveness. They ask for forgiveness. So then you work with them to better them. Remember, you and your spouse are working together to achieve that vision of entering Jannah together with your children as a family unit. It's not about one person getting something above the other and winning and being superior. No, it's about a team effort for a team goal, the pleasure of Allah. That's what it's about. Forgiving allows you to move forward. Okay? Forgiving the person allows you to move forward. Forget them, allows you to move forward. Get on with your life. Move to the next challenge. Move to the next test. Get through it. But forgetting allows you to excel. So forgiving is one step. The higher level is forgetting. Why do we say this? Now, forgetting, if you're going to bring up that issue that happened last year, the year before, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever something goes wrong, whenever another problem happens, you didn't really forgive them. And they're going to bring up everything that you've done. And it's just going to make things worse. Now, anyone who does this is problematic. And then the Prophet ﷺ warned our sisters from doing this, because when that emotion takes over, the Prophet ﷺ, he actually said, and this is why many women enter Jahannam. Because when something goes wrong and their husband does something wrong to them, they turn and they say, in the words of the Prophet ﷺ, يَكْفُرْنَ الْعَشِيرِ وَيَكْفُرْنَ الْإِحْسَانِ. They forget about all the good that was done by the husband, specifically the Prophet ﷺ mentioned first. And then, in general, they forget about all of those things that the person did for them which were good. So, my sisters as well, the Prophet ﷺ gave you this specific advice. Don't fall into this trap. This is a satanic trap to make you forget about all of the good because you're emotionally compromised. So, deal with this, manage it, and remember, forgetting allows you to excel in your relationship. Then to finish off, you don't want your life to be a very low level life, which all you live to do is squabble about these little petty things. What do you want in your life? You want to achieve something big, something grand, something exceptional, something amazing. There's nothing more amazing than getting to paradise, to getting yourself, your spouse, your children into paradise. There's nothing more amazing than leaving a legacy of righteousness with righteous children and righteous projects and things that benefit mankind in general. There's nothing greater than that. That will hold you in good stead. And in your grave, after you're long gone, it's going to give you reward. You're going to keep getting more and more. Now, that's what your life should be about. Your life is not something petty. Your life is exceptional. Your life is there to achieve something great. If you don't apply this principle, you'll turn your life into something very petty, something small, something insignificant, and actually a waste. Don't be like that. Now, to summarize this whole thing, the whole principle itself, and in fact, all of making your relationship with your spouse or your parents or your family exceptional is all based around one thing. It is, as Imam Ahmed said, when he said well-being is 10 parts, and all of them are in ignoring things on purpose because it's not worth it. There's bigger things to look at. What they were actually talking about, to have a good relationship, it's all about having good akhlaq. And this is one of the practical principles in having good akhlaq. If we were to have good akhlaq with each other, we wouldn't have many problems. And with that, I'm going to conclude and open it up for any questions that you may have. Jazakumullah khairah. May Allah enable us to act upon that which was beneficial, forgive us for any shortcomings and mistakes, and give us a great, grand life full of a great legacy that holds us in good stead Yawm al-Qiyamah with him, with his pleasure. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh. So brothers and sisters, before we head into the Q&A, inshallah, just a reminder, as mentioned previously, that the Islamic Council of Europe are a non-profit organization, and we rely heavily on donations to continue our services. So if you'd like to donate towards the cause, please do so on the website that is there, donate.iceurope.org, donate.iceurope.org. The URL is also in the chat box as well. And the next announcement, you can submit questions in the Q&A box on Zoom. There's a Q&A function in Zoom, so if you want to ask questions, please do so, inshallah. And this next announcement, last week, some of you may have heard Sheikh Ali mention we have an event, a workshop, and some of the content that's been delivered the last 2 or 3 weeks is from this workshop. And to be honest, we weren't planning to run this workshop, but since Sheikh Ali mentioned it last week, we had a few people email us asking when we're next going to run it. Now, this is our flagship workshop that we run usually once a year, and what you've heard in the last couple of weeks are just merely small segments from the course itself. The workshop is a full one-day course usually, and it covers marital conduct. We also go through real life examples, case studies as group work, and we also even have separate sections for brothers and sisters, so they have their own separate sessions with the advisor. Now, alhamdulillah, Fadlullah, we've managed to arrange not for 1, not 2, not 3, but for all 4 of our mashayikh to be available next weekend from Friday to Monday for about 1 or 2 hours each day in the evening. It's outside working hours. We've had quite a few people sign up already since it got launched over the weekend. Still some spaces available. So again, if you'd like to book, the link is there on the screen, and there is discount for those that book as a couple. Details on the website. So we'll go to the Q&A, inshallah. First question, Shaykh. You mentioned at the beginning about acceptance when it comes to, the question is acceptance when it comes to worldly matters. What about akhirah matters?
Say that again, please.
The question is in terms of acceptance when it comes to worldly matters, but what about akhirah matters?
Acceptance when it comes to worldly matters, yani worldly matters are given less significance. Now, ukhrawi issues, there's halal and haram. Yani that which is haram is not accepted. But at the same time, you know, there are yani husbands and wives who perhaps don't pray their 5 prayers, for instance. Okay, just because they don't pray their 5 prayers doesn't automatically mean that this marriage needs to end in divorce. Rather, remember, you're with a person. If you've got married and you've been married for some time, etc., you need to help them to become better and to fulfill all the obligations. Yeah. So when it comes to acceptance in worldly matters, yeah, those things should be easier for us to accept. When it comes to ukhrawi matters or the commandments of Allah, we should try to have those as red lines and boundaries from the beginning. Now, if that hasn't been done, and the person has been like that, and perhaps you were like that as well, and now you've changed, perhaps the other person and he needs more time and more encouragement. And remember, husband and wife, yani you have the most influence on your spouse, especially a wife when it comes to her husband. So use that influence. You know how they work, you know how they are better than anyone else. So use that with positive reinforcement, positive encouragement in positive ways to try to get them to change, and don't give up. That's what Allah wants to see you do, and that should be our first step. And we shouldn't give up easily, and we should sacrifice, and we should put every effort into making that happen. Okay, wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. Next question, Shaykh. When we have an issue, I want to communicate with my wife, but my wife wants to keep her thoughts to herself.
Okay, some people are like this. You need to find a way of the opposite party. Normally, it's the husbands who are like this. Here, it's the wife. It can happen to any side. You need to find a way of getting them to open up. People are not always like this. There's certain times they are open and certain times they are closed. If a person's happy, they're more susceptible to being open. They'll feel more free and they'll be open. Maybe it's because of the situation, the tense scenario that they're in, or the tense situation in the house, the tense, especially when there's in-laws involved, etc. They don't feel they can be open and communicate. So maybe take them out of that scenario, take them out of that situation. Right, so you try all of these things first. You should know how your spouse works. So try all of those things. When was the time when she was talking more than at other times? When was that? Why was it? Figure that out. Try to recreate that scenario, that situation, so you can have that conversation. Right, if that be, you need to go to a neutral party who can help you open up and have that kind of discussion. Okay, so get them to agree to go to something like that. But first and foremost, try to create that environment between yourselves and have that discussion. If that doesn't work, then try to have some kind of mediation, arbitration, and hopefully that works. Okay, so try those avenues first and foremost, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Next question, Shaykh. How do you deal with a spouse who has no emotional intelligence? It can get severely draining, as you can imagine.
And who said they have no emotional intelligence? And let's not, if we conclude that in our minds, then you've made it a fact. Okay, when you make it a fact, you're not going to bother, you're not going to try, you're not going to do anything. Everyone has some emotional intelligence, but maybe they display it and they use it in a different way to you. Okay, so that means that you need to press different buttons to actually access their emotions and to get them to do things in a way that is more conducive to your family life. It's not that they don't have the capacity. Everyone has the capacity. Maybe they don't want to at the moment because of other things. Maybe there's other frustrations. Now, normally this kind of statement, I don't know who made it, but normally this kind of statement is made by sisters, wives, So here, what I would normally advise sisters is, look, it's not doom and gloom. There's always capacity. There's times, if you think about it, when your husband wasn't like this. There's times when they do open up. And if they haven't opened up with you, I guarantee you they do open up with certain friends of theirs when they're doing certain other things, when they're working, when they're doing jobs, whatever it is. That's when they talk. And that's when they have that, those emotions, and they let them out, and they're kind of secure in letting those emotions out and dealing with them. And you will find them very different. Maybe in the scenario that you've created and developed at home, it's not conducive to that. So maybe that's what needs to change. Remember, everyone has buttons. If you press them, you get what you want. So learn what the buttons are and press the right buttons. But if you start with that mentality, it's doom and gloom, and the person doesn't have this, then you're never going to achieve much with them. And it's not because of them. It's now become because of yourself and your mindset towards them. If you have an open mindset, you know what? It can work. It can. The person can. Then you're going to try different things. And when you try different things, you get different responses. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh. Next question. What if one of the spouse is forgiven and ignores, but the other doesn't, and always thinks that they are right just because the other is always overlooking?
Okay, sometimes it is one-sided, and one party applies the principle, one party doesn't apply the principle. So the one who applies the principle is going to reap the rewards. They're going to have a more satisfying life. They're going to be closer to Allah. They're going to get the rewards. Okay, this kind of relationship is problematic. The person perhaps needs to learn and step up and go to courses and be accepting of this new information and this new learning and adopting these things. But perhaps they can't do that. Perhaps they need someone else to coax them and encourage them into doing that. Perhaps they need to learn it in a different way rather than a formal setting and a course. They need to have one of their friends and they have a chat with them in an informal situation where they discover that this is how the person lives a very happy and content life. You need to try different things. Okay, does it mean you give up? Does it mean you abandon the whole thing? No, try different things with the person. Right, if it doesn't work, try to get a neutral third party involved, whether at Islamic Council of Europe or somewhere else, or someone who's neutral between both of you, who's not going to take a side. Some kind of arbitration occurs. Maybe that is the route. Maybe it's not the route. There's just a simple conversation that needs to happen, a simple YouTube video that needs to be watched, a simple conversation where they feel they can be open needs to occur. Right, there is a way. If you believe there is a way, you'll find a way, and you'll try everything to find a way. Right, so say if you do everything possible and they're not going to change, then at the end of the day, you've got two options here. You can continue because you know what, you've got children, there's a bigger picture, still it's a marriage, there's so many plus points in the marriage, there's security, stability, there is still love, there is some happiness, there's still so much going. You can look at it like that, and khalas, that's how they are. Or you can say, you know what, I can't live like this anymore, and ask for divorce. And divorce is not an easy thing. It has so many different consequences to it. But that's a choice that, at the end of the day, you'll have to make. Wallahu a'lam.
Next question. Can we forgive someone, for example, sister-in-law, but keep our distance from them going forward so we don't have to deal with them anymore?
Yes, you can, especially if in cases there's interference that has caused problems in the marriage. But at the same time, remember, good akhlaq. Don't make it obvious that you're keeping a huge distance from them. Common courtesies, niceties, family gatherings, events. Make it a point to smile, make chit chat with them. Obviously, you're not going to go into detail about things. If someone's harmed you or and he's spoken about you badly, etc., you're going to be wary of them. That's normal human nature. And previously, we mentioned that hadith where the Prophet ﷺ described, that man came in and the Prophet was very nice to him. But at the same time, Prophet ﷺ described him as someone that people stay away from because he causes harm to them. So yeah, there are some people you need to keep them at an arm's length because of harm they've caused or can cause. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you don't have good akhlaq. You look at the Prophet's behavior, and even to this person, he was very, very welcome. Okay, so if you do that, if you do that, inshallah, there's no harm. Zubair, you still there?
No, Sheikh. Next question, Sheikh. What if your spouse does wrong but does not feel any remorse or want forgiveness? Should the 5 languages of apology still be followed if the outcome will be the same or no difference will be made?
Okay, then they perhaps need to understand why you feel what they did or what they said was wrong. Maybe they haven't understood why it's wrong. If they understood why it's wrong and they accepted, you know what, that was wrong, then they may behave differently. And normally, like this, the person hasn't understood why it's wrong. They believe they're still right. So if they believe they're still right, then that's a different issue. They don't need, they won't believe that they should follow these 5 steps because they don't believe they were wrong in the first place. Okay, so that's a different scenario that you're actually dealing with. Okay, so that needs to be a communication about, you know what, that actually hurt, that was a problem for me, and have that kind of discussion and see how that evolves. Some people may hold to, you know what, that wasn't wrong. What I said wasn't wrong. Okay, maybe it hurt you, but at the end of the day, I don't believe it was wrong. They may hold to that. Okay, so how do you behave with that scenario? Then you're going to have to listen to them as well and take an objective view of it. Maybe have a third party look at it, possibly, or let the situation go and just accept that's how they are. On these types of issues, they see things completely differently. That's how they are, and deal with it like that. So there's different options, and then this is the extreme. This is the extreme of it, where you say, you know what, forget it. We're going to just give up, throw it all away. That should be the extreme, and that is the extreme. Yeah, right. There's issues that occur, and they're always going to occur, and there's different things, and you find different ways to maneuver when these issues occur.
Next question, Sheikh. Can you please give some practical tips on how to remain calm during a conflict and how to implement ignore, forgive, and forget?
Yeah, different things work with different people. Yeah, people are different. Some people like to paint. Some people like to punch. Yeah, I'm not saying punch someone, punch a bag, punch some dough, cook. Some people like to clean. It relaxes them. Some people like to wash up. It relaxes them. Some people like to walk. Some people like to exercise. There's so many different things. What works for you? What is it that you have? One of the sisters, one of my students, she mentioned, find that activity that relaxes you. One of the older sisters in her 40s, maybe plus. This is a very good advice. Find that activity that relaxes you. And at that moment, when you're in the heat of it, you think about that thing, and then you don't say anything. You don't add to the discussion. You let the person go for it. Yeah, let them. Okay, and what do? In your mind, take yourself to that place, that activity, Okay, hold back. Don't allow yourself to engage in that row, that argument. Okay, that's part of it. Yani breathing, both focusing on something else, changing the subject, or just remaining silent. You know, sometimes that's the cure. Just remain silent. Let them let it out, because you're not going to stop them. It's like that steam train is going. If you get in its way, it's going to run you over. So you might as well just let it go, and then pick it up later on when you're in a calm, better mood. And they are also.
Next question, Shaykh. How do you distinguish between genuine problems in marriage that can lead to divorce and problems and issues that are worth ignoring?
Okay, so things that are unacceptable shar'an, unacceptable in the Sharia. Okay, so for instance, a person doesn't abide by their obligations at all, none, and they feel no remorse, and they don't work, and they don't want to work in the marriage. Okay, that's a sign. But at the end of the day, you may be frustrated, and it may look like a sign to you. If you can't work it out together, then the next step is to involve a neutral party. Let them assess for you, because sometimes you're too caught up in the moment and the context itself. You're too caught up in it to be able to see it objectively. And when someone looks at it objectively from the outside, they can pinpoint where the actual problem is and how to solve it. So your thinking should be, it can be fixed. It's not over. There is a way forward. This is how you should be thinking. Okay? It's just difficult at the moment because we can't find a solution, or we don't understand how to just let things go, okay, and work together. Right. Then get some help. There's no harm in that. It's something good. Get the help, and let the person who's helping in the neutral party look at it objectively and then give you advice. Okay? It should be a last resort. It should not be, you know what, things are not going well, let's call it a day. That is not Islamic mentality. That is not what Allah wants. We know, everyone knows the famous hadith. Shaitan, he has a throne above water, and he invites his followers, his army, and who's done the most, and he's waiting for that person to say, I split a man and his wife. Okay, so Allah loves that our marriages are strong and stay together and work, and Shaitan loves that our marriages come to an end. So the Shari'i angle is, try everything to make it work. Never give up unless it's proven objectively that that is the only way forward in your marriage. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh. We'll have to call it there, inshallah, because it's time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from you for taking out of your busy schedule and make it weigh heavy on your scales, and to increase you and your family.
And you and everyone else.
Jazakumullah khairan. Brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khairan for again spending your time with us. It's been a pleasure. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from everyone that spent time with us today. Just one last few announcements. We have another live Q&A taking place this Sunday, inshallah, with our Shaykh Dr. Haytham Haddad. It's a live Ramadan Q&A. So any questions you have in relation to Ramadan, especially this year, it's somewhat different for us, obviously. Please have those questions submitted for the live Q&A on Sunday. You can register on the link there, icu.org/Ramadan QA. It's completely free, taking place this coming Sunday at 6 p.m. inshallah ta'ala. So please do join us. We will be talking about the current situation and how to make the best out of it in the Ramadan. So please do join us, inshallah. Next announcement is next week, don't forget, is the final part of this series. will probably be 8:45 actually, given that Maghrib will be later. So please join us for the final session, and that again will be with Shaykh Haddad, and that will be talking about preparing for Ramadan as a couple or in terms of marriage. So please do join us for that, inshallah ta'ala. And as mentioned previously, your feedback is very important for us. So please do take, it just takes 2 minutes to submit your feedback, and it's very important for us to continue improving our services. So please do complete feedback on the link that's been put in the chat box. It just takes 2 minutes. So please do submit feedback. And if you have any further questions at all, you can contact us directly through our website. With that being said, Jazakumullah khairan, wa barakallahu feekum, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.